Now we come to your final workbook integration. And before we begin, I want you to take a moment, a breath, a pause. Because so often in life we move straight on to the next thing. We focus on what still needs fixing, what still needs changing, and what we haven't done yet. And we forget to acknowledge how far we've come. So before you open the next page, I want you to recognise something. You showed up. You committed to yourself. And you chose to explore parts of yourself that many people spend a lifetime avoiding. That deserves to be acknowledged. So this week's workbook isn't about uncovering another pattern, and it isn't about finding another thing that's wrong. It's about reflection, recognition, integration. It's about giving yourself the opportunity to see who you were, who you are, and who you are still becoming. And that can be emotional, because often we don't realise how much we've changed until we stop long enough to look. So the first part of this is I want you to do a bit of a growth reflection exercise to celebrate. This is where I want you to look back across the entire programme, not just the big moments, but the small ones too, and ask yourself, what have I learned about myself? What patterns do I understand now? What am I proud of? And what feels different today than it did 8 weeks ago? Please, please don't minimise your progress. Like I keep saying, growth doesn't have to be dramatic to be meaningful. Sometimes growth looks like noticing a pattern sooner, speaking more honestly, trusting yourself a little more, resting without guilt, or allowing yourself to be seen. Those shifts really matter. And I want you to honour this journey, so as you reflect, you may notice some grief, and that's okay. Growth involves letting go of things. So you might be grieving the old versions of you, the old beliefs, relationships, expectations, and not because you want them back, but because they were familiar. Allow yourself to honour that, because healing isn't just about gaining, it's about releasing too. And then I'm going to drop a template below, so you'll see the template for this. I want you to print it off, and I want you to write a letter from your future self. This is one of the most powerful exercises we're going to do. And I want you to imagine yourself 1 year from now. Again, not the perfect or unrealistic version, but the version who's continued doing the work and showing up for themselves, choosing themselves. The version who's trusted their voice. What would you want them to know today? What would you thank them for? What would they remind you of? Allow yourself to write freely. Sometimes our deepest wisdom arrives when we stop trying so hard to find it. And then I want you to look at your personal manifesto. So this is about creating your own guide moving forward. Not someone else's rules, not society's expectations, but yours. What do you believe now? What standards do you want to live by? What are you no longer willing to abandon yourself for? And what do you want your future to be built upon? This is your opportunity to create a relationship with yourself that feels intentional. And then the next chapter vision. So we may be coming to the end of the programme, but your growth isn't ending. So this exercise asks you what comes next. Not from pressure, not from needing all the answers, but from possibility. What do you want more of? What are you ready for? And what are you no longer willing to tolerate? Ultimately, what kind of life are you creating? Let yourself dream. Because for many people, survival left little room for dreaming, and now you get to reconnect with that possibility. Remember, if you feel emotional this week, it is normal. Endings often create reflection, and reflection creates emotion. I'm here if you need any support. This programme has likely brought up things you haven't looked at in a very long time. So finding yourself emotional, just be gentle. Not because you're fragile, but because actually you've been really brave. You took a bold action by starting this process. You were brave to continue with it. And now you're able to look and reap all of the beauty that has come from being part of this program. That bravery deserves compassion. So this workbook is not here to prove you've healed, because healing isn't a destination, as we've said. It's designed to help you recognise. It's a reflection tool. You can look at the relationship you've built with yourself and how that's going to carry you forward. Not just on the worksheets and the videos or the coaching calls, but that relationship you've now formed with yourself. That is the real transformation. Now, I would love for you to share something from this week in the community. Perhaps your biggest lesson, what you're most proud of, what you're leaving behind and actually you're quite happy to leave behind, what you're stepping into, even if that still feels a bit scary, and what this journey has meant to you. I would love to know that one especially. And not because you owe anyone your story, but because celebrating growth really matters, and allowing yourself to be witnessed within that growth is a very powerful, powerful thing. So you do not need to leave this program feeling perfectly healed, completely fearless, or with every answer. You simply need to end this program more aware, with more self-compassion and more self-trust, and a deeper connection to yourself than when you arrived. That's enough. And as you complete this final workbook integration, I want you to remember something. You were never broken. You were adapting. You were never weak. You were surviving. And over the last 8 weeks, you have begun creating something very, very different. A life built on truth, courage, self-respect, and trust. And wherever your journey goes next, take this with you. You already carry within you everything you need to continue becoming. This may be the end of the program, but it's only the beginning of your next chapter. I can't wait to see where it takes you.